Thanks, Katerina. It's great to be here with you all and to step on campus. I'm a product of MIT and I've been in virtual space, so it's great to just be here in person. So let me start off by saying that. So I'm going to talk today about this idea of nimble leadership, and this is a conference about startups, so we're probably all, like me, allergic to bureaucracy and want to keep what's great about our startups. And I'm going to talk about how it is that we can grow companies while keeping that entrepreneurial kind of startup culture. This is a diagram that we're probably all somewhat familiar with, your typical bureaucracy where you've got the folks at the top who are supposed to be the smartest people in the room, and they're making the decisions, the policies, they're driving those down through the organization, through the middle layer of management clay, as it sometimes is called, and those folks are expected to get the people on the front line moving in the right direction. So these are how we have often considered our picture of organizations, is this command and control kind of bureaucracy. But you know what? The world is changing so fast now that there is no way the people, the small group of people at the top of the hierarchy, has the answers that we're going to need to be able to evolve, adapt, and innovate in this world today. So what is nimble leadership about? It's fundamentally about flipping this organizational hierarchy on its head. And the role of the people who are the senior people of the organization, their role becomes one of design architects. They are responsible for designing the game board, if you will, the innovation game board, so that the rest of the people in the organization can contribute the best of their skills, their talents, their abilities, their experience to this great game of innovation. So I want to start off by telling you a story. It turns out that one thing nimble organizations are really good at is storytelling. They're really good at data and measurement, and they're really good at storytelling. So this is a story about an organization that we studied starting about 10 years ago. It's called W.L. Gore. They are known for making Gore-Tex fabric that sent this team to Antarctica, to traverse Antarctica. They send people up into space clad in their Gore-Tex fabrics. They have cables that are in the Mars Discovery lander. And they make medical products that go inside people's hearts. They do a lot of different things. And I'm going to tell you a story about what it's like to walk into Gore, where we've learned a lot about what nimble leadership looks like. Gore is an 11,000 person global company, was founded in 1958. So they've been doing this for a long time. They've been on the Fortune 100 best companies to work for the last 21 out of 24 years. They've got revenues of close to $4 billion, operations in almost every continent. So they've been around the block. And I want to tell you a story about what it was like talking with somebody inside Gore, because how they work is interesting. So one of my favorite leaders inside of Gore was a gentleman who works in their Gore-Tex Fabrics division. And he'd been there for, I think, 15 years or so. And our research team, I've done this research for years with Professor Deborah Ancona at Sloan and our collaborator Elaine Backman. So we walk in and we ask this gentleman, so tell us about Gore. How did you end up working in this area? And he says, well, I spent the first few months, and we're talking with the folks here who are what we call entrepreneurial leaders. Well, I spent the first few months getting to know people around here and seeing where I could make a contribution. So he's got a lot of autonomy to do that. And so we said, wait a minute, so you didn't ask anybody for permission? No. I found a team where I felt I could add value, and I made a commitment to them. And I made a commitment to work on this product. Commitment is big in nimble organizations. And then I got this idea for a micro fleece. I've been hearing from our customers that they like warm fabrics, but the fleeces, that are inside their Gore-Tex jackets are really big and bulky, so they want something a little thinner and more lightweight. So I have this idea for this microfleece product, and here, see these sheep shearers? Well, I'm trying to shear off our fleece and make a prototype so I can go show it to our customers. And then I have to talk to my colleagues and see if I can get some buy-in. This is I like Kevin's distinction of Gore is a building company, so primarily. They're doing more buying, partnering, and investing these days, but they have been really good at building. So this gentleman is trying to build a new microfleece, and he has to go out before in. He's got to go talk to his customers, find out what they want, and to think about how what Gore does really well can connect with the need in the market. And he does that by talking with customers constantly. So on we go with the conversation. So how does your boss help you do this? Oh, we don't have bosses here. What? You don't have bosses here? What do you mean you don't have bosses here? Well, no one tells us what to do here. We have sponsors. We have sponsors at Gore, and their job is to help us figure out how to succeed. Gore their sponsors are what we call in our framework enabling leaders. And so rather than an enabling leader's job is to coach people, connect them, help them communicate. We said, so how do they do that? What do they do to help you succeed? Well, mine asked me a lot of questions that get me to think about how to connect what we do with what the market need is. They connect me with other people in the organization who are trying to do things, like this group that's doing a lightweight zipper. I didn't know about them, and my sponsor is helping me connect with them and figure out how to integrate that into my product. And navigate all the internal organizational stuff too, because we have politics here, just like everybody does. All right, well, great, that's interesting. No bosses, but sponsors and enabling leaders. So what else happens around here? Like, how is this place not complete chaos if you have all this freedom to go out and innovate? Well, he says, we have some things for that. We have guardrails. And so, for instance, we have something around here called fit for use. Everybody knows fit for use at Gore. If we're going to send people to Antarctica, and if we're going to send people into space, we better be damn sure that our products are going to be fit for the use that we intend them and that our customers are using them for. We don't want to have a leak in one of our spacesuits up there. And everybody in this organization knows fit for use. Everybody. It's distributed leadership. Okay, we also have culture, and I say, yeah, we noticed every room we go into, there's a culture poster. What is with that? What's going on with this culture? Well, we take our culture very seriously. We have 4 cultural values. One of them is freedom, but freedom isn't what you think it means. It's not freedom to do whatever you want. What we mean by freedom in Gore is the freedom to help others, to encourage, help, and allow others to grow. That's what we mean by freedom. Another one is commitment. So I made a commitment to this team. We expect people to make and keep their commitments until you deliver or you renegotiate. It's not perfect here, so we sometimes innovate in places where we don't really want innovation. Like we had 3 customer relationship management systems, and everybody had their pet system, and our customers were getting confused. Heck, we were getting confused. So it's not perfect, and sometimes it's hard for us to just rip the Band-Aid off and make a decision, because we do everything by consensus. So it's not perfect, but we're pretty innovative, and it's really fun to work here. All right, so we say, you have this microfleece. So then what happens? Then what are you going to do? You said, well, you have to earn followership around here. You don't just get it automatically. People vote with their feet. We're voting here with our feet in this room with our question boards, aren't we? So it's fun to vote with your feet. And he said, my job is, if I get this idea, I have to do something called I have to host a conversation called a real win-worth. I have to get all my colleagues together, and we all talk about whether this idea I have is real, is it going to be a win, and what's it worth? The P&G, Kevin was talking about how he got the 16-page thing down to like a 1-page, and same thing at Gore. It's a very simple thing. They have to lay out what your idea is in 1 page, and then we talk about it. And we kick the tires of these ideas, and the things that don't die, and we try to kill bad ideas fast, but if they don't die, they get stronger as they grow. And then we funnel those up, and the good ideas funnel up to the top. So those are the guardrails that we have in place. It's not bureaucratic, they're simple. We all know them by heart, and that's how we keep chaos from happening around here. All right, so we say, what's it like working around here? I love it. I've been here 10 years, or whatever it was that he was, and he says, I'm a young'un. I'm considered a young'un. We have people who have been here 15, 20 years, and that's very common. People love working here. All right, so that, in a nutshell, is the summary of over 10 years of research on not just Gore, but lots of nimble organizations. So I want to start by just going a little bit into some of these important components of guardrails and freeing people up, so freedom and focus. So this is some research by Ernst & Young, and nimble organizations, it turns out, are very purpose-driven, and they're really good at talking about their purpose. But not many organizations think of their purpose in bigger terms. So if you look on this, the right-hand side this is a study done on a whole bunch of different companies that show that about 60% of organizations think about their purpose in terms of one stakeholder group, maximizing shareholder value, bringing value to customers, very important, creating value for employees, very important, all of this stuff. However, they think of it in terms of those one stakeholder group, whereas we find that nimble organizations, if you're going to free people up, you have to inspire them. So what inspires people? It's thinking about, here on the left side, which is in the minority of organizations, maybe you're one of those minority, having an aspirational reason for being that's grounded in humanity, that inspires a call to action. So if you're not going to force people in the command and control model of organizations to toe the line, what else could you do? You inspire them, you persuade them, you connect them to an aspirational reason for coming to work. Or you also create value for a broad set of stakeholders. So we're going, how can we do something that's good for our customers, our employees, our communities, our investors, everybody? Okay, so we know that purpose works. Some of the research coming out of the Harvard Business School is that they outperform the market. 80% of business leaders, probably most of us in this room, believe that an organization's purpose is really central to success. However, there's a gap. And in the vast majority of organizations, almost 70%, purpose is not used as a guidepost in leadership decision-making processes. So I want to talk about how that can start to happen. What are the practical steps that you could take, no matter what stage of development you're in, to use purpose as a guidepost? Okay, so we're going to stretch Pigeonhole to its limits here, and Kwan, I want to get a sense in the room of where you all think your purpose lives. So meh is this sort of American, my purpose as an organization is kind of, it's all right. Or is it wow? Is your purpose great? Wow, okay, good. So let's just get a sense in the room. A lot of times I talk to people in big corporations and the curve is sort of way over towards the meh, but take a minute and just let's see where you all think your purpose is living. Going to the right as more of you weigh in. All right, this is higher than I think a lot of groups that I talk with. Maybe not surprising given who we all are here in this room. Okay, great. Well, you're already sort of ahead of the curve, if you will, a little bit more than average. Okay, a long meh tail. Okay, good. Kwan, can you cue up the next question? Now, it's important to have an inspiring purpose, and it's important to get it off the wall and into the water. Is that showing up on your screens? Where does your purpose live? Is it living on the wall, or is it in the water? Is it like at Gore, where they use these things in their daily decisions to guide what they do? All right, we're a little lower than last time. So it looks like maybe some work to do to get it off the wall and more into the water. Great, okay. This is part of what nimble leadership is about, is understanding what's going on. There are quick ways to see what's happening. And here now we all can see where each other is. And I know where you are, so I can hopefully speak to where you are a little bit better than I could a moment ago. Okay, Kwan, let's shut that down and we'll go back to the slides. Thank you. Okay. So in terms of an example of what would be an aspirational purpose, you all already have a lot of that. But does anybody know who this is? What organization this is? We are ladies and gentlemen serving ladies and gentlemen. What a wonderful aspirational purpose. Any guesses? Ritz-Carlton. Who said that? Yes, you got it. It's the Ritz-Carlton. We can learn a lot from the Ritz-Carlton about what it means to serve customers. And let me tell you how. First of all, we can learn about what a purpose really is about. The purposes of an organization is, why do we exist? It's some organizations talk about it and congruent with mission and purpose. But it's really about, why do we exist? What do we stand for? Who are we? It's our identity. And purposes that are on that left side of the figure have four qualities, at least. First of all, they're people-centered. They're people-centered. They're about others and serving others. They make a bigger contribution to beyond money, beyond making money, to society, to communities, to employees. They're rooted in the organization's DNA, so if you have any question about what yours is, you can always find it in the story of what you do and how you serve your customers and your people. It's always in there somewhere if you look. And it's inspiring. It inspires everybody that we engage. So ask yourself, if you're on the long end of the meh tail, does your purpose satisfy these criteria? And what could you do? You can look into your own stories to discover what those four things are and bring them more to life. Okay, so getting them off the wall and into the water. How does that happen? Again, you can learn a lot from a few good examples. The Ritz does this every single day, and this is also a technique that's used in Agile. Nimble and Agile are close cousins. Nimble being more about the culture and the structure and design of an organization as a whole, but a lot of parallels. So in Agile and at Ritz, there's a daily stand-up or a daily lineup. This is an intern from the Ritz-Carlton, Boston, when it used to be the Ritz-Carlton, named Alec Dalton, and he's leading his first lineup here, and he tells this story about how a guest and his wife were staying at the Ritz, and the guest had a health problem. And he tells the story of how the staff rally around and help him have this really special experience while they're there. And then what happens, again, nimble organizations are really good at telling stories. Ritz-Carlton is great at telling stories, and they have a Toyota production-like system of measuring everything that backs up the story. So it's both the technical and the emotional. But what happens after Alec tells his story is he says, okay, so who here heard any of our gold standards in this story? And around the room is all the staff who are going to be staffing the hotel that day, and they start saying things like, oh, I heard in that story, Ritz-Carlton Gold Standard number 3. I am empowered to create a unique, memorable, and personal experiences for our guests. That's what I heard in that story. Okay, and then the lady in the black and white here steps forward and she gives this little speech. She, in front of the group, you can actually watch this on YouTube. I'll send everybody the link. She says, I heard in that story our Ritz-Carlton Gold Standard number 8. I have the opportunity to continuously learn and grow. And she said, you know, I heard in that story that our staff could have fun. They could be creative, they could tap into their natural talents, and not many organizations encourage it, allow it, and celebrate it. Great example of innovation with a strategic mindset, having a lot of autonomy, in alignment with the organization's purpose and values. That's the role of storytelling, and most nimble organizations have practices for storytelling to get people aligned about what do we stand for, who are we? And not just that, how can I be creative in expressing that? Okay, another example from a big corporate, KPMG, which is a big accounting and consulting firm. So KPMG was wanting to redefine their purpose, and they decided that, no, we don't just do people's books and help them do strategic plans. What we think we do is we inspire confidence and empower change. That's what we think our purpose is. And they went back into their history and articulated that as a purpose. And then, getting the purpose off the walls and into the water, they said, all right, let's see what everybody else in this organization thinks about that. They did a lot of consultation to get to that point, but then still need to connect people with how that happens in your daily job. So they did the 10,000 Stories Challenge. They said, okay, if we can get 10,000 stories in the form of these posters of how you or your team's work connects with our purpose of inspiring confidence and empowering change, we will extend the Thanksgiving paid holiday by 2 days. Can you guys do that? Turns out they could, and they didn't get 10,000 stories, they got 42,000 stories, and 27,000 people across the organization participated in this exercise. So here are some examples of things that they created. We go green. I power innovation. I help farms grow. Other examples. So simple ways to get that purpose off the walls and into the water are really important in getting people aligned around where are we going, what do we stand for. Okay, and this segues into the next part of what I want to talk about, which is when we go and speak with people in organizations like these, one thing that they are really, really good at is balancing these, what we call polarities, or coming up with leadership moves or solutions that balance both sides of seeming opposite things. Stories do that, other things do that. But you can hear in the stories, and what these examples just showed you, that they free people up. They free the people to go be creative, but they also focus the people. They provide those guardrails for what do we mean by who we are. So they're doing both things at once. They connect people's understanding of who we are, what's our purpose, but also what are our strategic capabilities, what are our strategic priorities, what are our objectives for this year, what do we do, what are we doing, what are we up to. They connect that stuff on the inside with the outside, and you just heard the last group talk about this, how important it is to not get wrapped up in our own love of our own technologies, which we should love, and connect with the customer. How are you using this? You're going to hear from Matt Cressy at the end of the day also about this. Design thinking. What's the value we're creating and for whom? Is it what we think? What adjustments do we need to make? Again, stories can help you do that. It's both and. Both and. Okay. Both and polarities are two possibilities that exist in a dynamic, interdependent tension with each other. So both are needed. Here are some examples. Breathing in. Breathing out. We need both things. We need control and freedom. We need centralized and decentralized, stability and flexibility, internal and external, me and we need both of those things in balance, otherwise things don't work. All right, so example from Spotify, another great nimble organization. So they talk about this polarity of autonomy and alignment, and we're gonna test ourselves in just a moment. This graphic, by the way, I see people taking pictures. This is courtesy of Jimmy Janlin at Crisp Agile, so to give credit where credit is due. So a lot of times in a low autonomy, low alignment situation, people don't know what they're doing, and they don't have any freedom to do anything, so they just are sad little gray faces. In an organization like a bureaucracy with high alignment but low autonomy, you know, the boss says, we need to cross the river, and the way to do it is to build the bridge. But that actually robs people of a sense of freedom and creative autonomy, because what if, you know, maybe a better way to cross that river is to build a tunnel underneath, or have a hovercraft, or who knows what. So again, this person is sitting at the top, doesn't always know the right answer. Down here in the lower right, if you have a high autonomy but low alignment situation, the leader's not communicating those priorities. Clear direction is important. That's what architecting leaders do. Clear purpose, clear strategic priorities. This is what we need to do and what we need to be working on. But in this situation, gee, I hope someone's working on the river problem and everyone's going all over the place. It's too much autonomy, not enough alignment. This is the sweet spot up here, and the question is how to get the benefits of both. Okay, so quick exercise here. This will take 2 minutes in the room. And okay, so Kwan has put up our QR code, and what I'd like to know is on question number 1, okay, we don't have the questions anymore. Okay, so question number 1, what are the benefits of freedom, of having freedom, or I think in this case I put autonomy in the poll. So we're gonna do a little word cloud and we're gonna build this together. What are the benefits of having freedom and lots of autonomy in an organization? And you can go and put into your phone what you think are the benefits, and Kwan will show us the word cloud that we're gonna build together. Great, benefits of autonomy. Ownership, engagement. I like that ownership one. I haven't seen that one before. Freedom, creativity, creative solutions. So look, it takes 20 seconds and you all have great ideas for this. A lot of, if you put in, if you see something you like, you want to vote for it, just put it in again and the word will get bigger. A lot on innovation, creativity, engagement. Great. Okay, so move to the next question, please. What happens when you get too much autonomy? What are the overuses of too much autonomy? That's question number 2. And Kwan will show us, thank you, Kwan, what we are building together. Chaos, confusion, tragedy of the commons. That's a good one. Tragedy, that is true. No sense of we, too much autonomy, no sense of we. Dilution, lack of direction. Great, okay. Well, not great, but you get the idea. Okay, let's move on to the third question. So what are the benefits of alignment? Putting Pigeonhole through its paces here. Focus, efficiency, purpose. Right. We're all moving in the same direction. Teamwork, progress. A lot on efficiency. Yes, we need efficiency. Good. Purpose is going in and out as the top one. Purpose and competition. Purpose and efficiency are in a competition. Okay, great. Let's go to the last one. What are the overuses of alignment? If we have too much alignment, what happens? Groupthink, burnout, line-sided, low creativity, rigid, slow, unoriginal, boring. Definitely don't want to be boring. Groupthink is getting a lot of votes. Okay, great. All right, so let's go back to the slides. So you can see how this is actually from another group because we could not figure out how to get all these onto one slide in record time. But you can see how quickly you all generated an idea of what these upsides and downsides or overuses are. It goes very fast. You can do this with your own organizations. When you're trying to solve a business problem, you can do what's called reframing a problem into a polarity to manage. That's Barry Johnson's, I think, brilliant phrase. We're dealing with, getting too hung up with our centralized efforts here. Well, okay, what's the other side of that? We need more decentralization. How can we balance that out? And you can ask the question, how do we get the upsides of both of these while avoiding the downsides? And quickly get you can solicit from your team or your group, they know what the upsides and downsides are, just like we did here, okay? And however, as a leader, including the other pole is hard, and this is a leadership challenge, and what we find nimble leaders are really good at doing is they're good at having the conversation with the people who around some of these emotional issues. Why is including the other pole hard? If you're a person who likes centralized operations, you might be afraid of losing the benefits of your preferred way of operating, and you fear the downsides of the bad pole. Well, we all do. You might fear the unknown. You might be uncomfortable with something being challenging the way that you think the world works, or you might be worried that you might be judged by other centralizers. So there are a lot of emotional reasons why it's hard to move from one pole to the other. But there's a set of questions to get to that both and that you can ask people. And this is Vogt, Brown, and Isaac's powerful question framework that I want to give to you, because there are questions that have more power in them to get people to think creatively about how to design new solutions. Why, how, and what questions get people to think. They help develop that strategic mindset. It's a great enabling leadership move. So what led us to operate this way in the first place? What's at risk if we continue with our centralization? What's at risk to move to more decentralized way of working? Is this a risk we're willing to take? We can have that conversation. That's what enabling leaders do, is they host those conversations. How can we get more of the benefits of one pole without losing the benefits of the other? How can we monitor and rebalance quickly if needed? So here's an example. I want to leave you with two examples today. So the Forest Service is a client that I worked with some years ago, and they had a fire problem. They had a lot of fatalities, and they were spending huge amounts of money on firefighting, which is only getting worse and worse as the climate changes. So they were stuck in a polarity of fight all fires on the one hand. We think we have to fight all the fires and put them out. On the other hand, some of these fires turn into such big infernos that you actually can't fight them. You have to let the fuel burn out, which is politically difficult because people are watching their homes burn. But there were these two camps in the organization, and you could probably think of people who are in two different camps in almost any organization on almost any issue. So what do you do? What do you do with that? It turns out that the Forest Service and other fire management agencies are finding a both-and solution by having those conversations about what's at risk. And it turns out what they're doing is they're learning from a lot of indigenous groups who have been doing intentional fire setting for millennia, thousands of years, in fact. And it's about setting fires, but doing it in small ways at the right time, under control, and for a purpose. And then you don't get the big fuel buildup, and you don't get big infernos, and then you can fight the fires better that do arise. Okay, last example. This is a farming metaphor, and I want to leave you with some wisdom from regenerative farming. This is a farm in California called Apricot Lane Farms. And 8 years ago when they first started, this is what it looked like. It was a monoculture, kind of lots of bare soil, traditional industrial farming, the way that we often go about it. Today, this is what it looks like here. And here's a better picture. Beautiful, right? Beautiful. And I want to leave you with a couple of thoughts that I think are parallels with nimble leadership from the field of regenerative farming. 6 ways to think like a farmer when you go back into your organizations. Enabling leadership. Learn where the carrots like to be planted. Don't plant them where they don't want to be planted. In fact, let the carrots help decide where they want to go. Don't blame them for not growing fast enough. They will grow at their own speed, and don't yank them up to see if they're growing. Let me just check, see how you're doing. That's how to be an enabling leader, in summary. Architecting leadership. One thing that these folks here learned is that soil is not dirt. It's not sterile dirt that you grow plants in. Soil is full of healthy soil is full of microorganisms. The way a healthy culture is rich, diverse, you have to rebuild the soil, and then the plants will get healthier. Have to stay humble and observe and listen to how each part fits in the whole so you can help guide, but not force, but guide. Make small moves to balance chaos and order, and then observe. Be an anthropologist. Observe, 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 measure, adjust. Finally, this is me holding a frog. This, in the end, comes down to who you are. And at MIT, we encourage leaders to know themselves, to know their stories, to know what they're good at, to know what they're not good at. I'm a biologist by training. This is why you're getting farming metaphors in my talk. I'm really good at seeing patterns and connections, but I always lose my keys, my phone, and my wallet. I'm terrible at details. I always get nervous before talks, even though I've given hundreds of them, but I pretty much have a good time when I'm up here. And we all have a story. We all have unique background experience, superpowers. It's really important to know that story and to tell it. Our people want, the last group talked about authenticity, our people want us to be authentic. Know your story, tell your story, let people see your humanity, and that will give people around you permission to do the same. Thank you so much. Yes.
Thank you very much, Kate, for the great talk. And we still have time for 2 questions.
Two questions.
Is that okay for you?
Great.
So, okay, and we must read them out loud.
Yes.
To make sure that, where are you? That the audience online knows what it's about. So, in your research with W.L. Gore, did you find that they have changed over time? That the top leadership level have gotten a bit thicker, slowing things down a bit as the new ideas bubble up?
Yes, and it's something that they are attentive to and worry a lot more about bureaucracy and sliding into bureaucracy than they do about having they tend to tolerate a little bit too much innovation around things that maybe are distracting, like too many customer relationship management systems. So, but they have put in some more traditional practices that they always adapt, because they don't just adopt anything as is, but they adapt it in terms of portfolio management. So, how do we manage a portfolio of all these different options and get people involved in collectively evaluating, which ones are the ones to make bets on? So yeah, and now that when people are hired, they come in with, they used to never have titles. Now they have titles, and they come in, with more of a sense of what job are they going to do, rather than just spending months trying to figure out where to contribute. So things have gotten a little bit, they definitely have gotten more formalized, but in general, they tend to be more worried about bureaucracy, and they tend to not do that if possible.
Okay. And as a final question, how much does naval leadership vary based on industry? Highly regulated versus limited regulation? Yeah, so I'm working with a pharma company right now that wants to do nimble pharma, and a lot of organizations so they're obviously highly regulated, but a lot of the principles that I talked about today apply. So getting really clear about their purpose, their strategic priorities, connecting people through stories, about how they're doing, and getting that really in the water, so that when people are acting in alignment with those strategic priorities, and they're doing it with some creativity and engagement. So it's great for new technologies, but the principles also apply in highly regulated, power industry, pharma industry, places like that as well. Okay, fantastic. Thank
you.